In this seemingly peaceful pack, betrayal and secrets lurk around every corner. Chapter 24. To admit Daniel's P. Oh, Faye. I lost it like that. How can I do that? Darn it. This is not so good. I'm supposed to make her leave this pack. I'm supposed to want her to leave, but instead I forced her to stay. She is so selfish. How can she use this mating bond against her? It's not like you don't deserve it. My wolf told me. Shut up. I'm tired of hearing same thing from you. I scolded him. Can you blame me? I could remember a conversation similar to this one not long ago. My wolf blames me every time. I cut it off and watched as she swayed her hips. Male eyes traveled to her butt. Honestly, it didn't bother me. She is like that sometimes. It's in her nature. I can't blame her for that. Baby, I'm going for shopping with Delilah. She told me and kissed my lips. It was a long, hungry kiss which I returned with full favor. Images of Sera flashed in my mind. Her body heat, her sweet scent. I kissed Shay hard in order to get rid of those images and replace them with she as. That's what I did a year ago. Replace Sera with Shay, and where it landed me, I ended up being an irresponsible alpha whose true mate ridicules him every day and whose true mate even says him about his attraction for her. Anger boiled inside me. Frustration, domination, all relaxation I was supposed to feel. Shay pulled away from me. I narrowed my eyes at her and pulled her back, kissing her thoroughly. She didn't respond. I growled, pushing her on the couch, forgetting there was a male wolf standing not so far from me, but I didn't care at all. Taking Shay on the couch in presence of another wolf was not my intention, but I was so angry that I relieved my frustration as soon as possible. It's not like we got naked or anything, but that wolf was enough intelligent to leave their alpha to his business. The room was empty except for me and Shay. What are you doing? She asked me, panting. Let's go to bedroom, I said, dragging her to bedroom. No, I'm not going, she told me stubbornly. I could have growled at her but realized I didn't want it either. Due to this stupid mating bond, I will never be able to get from Shay what I want. It will only be Sera. Why doesn't she just accept my rejection? Then leave, I said through clenched teeth, and went upstairs. If Sera can't seduce me, I can do that too. Mating bond doesn't work only one way. What I hadn't expected was to find Sera all tangled up with that Kyle bastard on her bed. It was anger of me and my wolf that was responsible for my further actions. All I could see was red as that image was imprinted on my mind. I tore off wooden door from its hinges, throwing it somewhere inside her room. That drew attention of both of them. They separated and sat on the bed. I didn't know what they had in mind, but all I had in my mind was anger and betrayal. How could she do that when I was her mate? Daniel, what are you doing? Sera asked with coldness. I glared at her hardly and lunged towards her. Before I could wrap my arms around her neck, I was stopped by Kyle, who slammed me to side, throwing me against the wall. I growled at him. What's wrong with you, man? He asked with anger. Attacking a girl. And what's wrong with you? Sleeping with others' mates. I challenged him, standing up. Sera doesn't have a mate, he countered. I'm her mate, so you better stay away from her, I growled, my hands itching to do him some damage, so I shoved him. He went flying to other end of the room. I sat on him and slammed my fist against his face. Stay away from him. I spat and punched him again. She is not your mate. She is. Sera is my true mate. My fist landed on his cheek again. The next thing I knew, I was lying under him as he straddled me. He glared at me and then disappeared. He was so fast, flying out of the window and transforming into his wolf. I wanted to go after him, but a voice drew my attention. Well done, Alpha. Sera leaned against the windowsill, watching me like a hawk with cold eyes. Her betrayal made me angrier. You're betraying, bit. Look who's talking. She cut me off. A faint confirmation hit me. She was right. How could I raise questions at her when I was with someone else? Shay is at least my mate. I mocked her. You were just sleeping around with other wolves. I accused her. He was only Kyle. He's been better friends with me than you will ever be. She shrugged her shoulders as if it was nothing. He's not your mate. He can be. In near future. she said coldly. I froze at me spot. That can't be. My wolf hated the idea. But she won't do anything like that. They were together on a bed. Of course they can think about it. Sera can think about it. But you didn't reject me. Yeah. I will definitely, so that if I get with Kyle. Suddenly the idea of her rejecting me didn't sound very good. It made my chest constrict painfully. I had to clench my fist because all I wanted right then was to engulf her in my arms and never let her go. What is this happening? But he left you. He knows that you are my mate. I argued. You told him that. She accused me, and he left right after. What if he tells everyone outside that I am your real mate? I froze again. My heart stopped as I thought about it. A very carefree part of me liked it, but the other part hated something like this. My pack members will not like this. They will definitely not like this. They won't believe him. I told her. Even I didn't sound very sure. They won't, and they will ask you. You will deny it in front of everyone. And then they would eventually, because you are going to tell them in near future. That's what the deal was about. I had almost forgotten about that. I have to tell them this someday, but not today. I'm not prepared for it. I'm not prepared for their reaction. And don't blame it on me. You were so drowned in your ocean of jealousy that you surfaced the wrong side, not bothering sharks are waiting for you there. I stayed silent. You don't ever think about your actions, Daniel. You never had. You have time until your father returns, so don't worry about me spilling a secret or anything. Think about yourself and your pack. I had no hand in what happened back then. I was exhausted and Kyle just leapt here. Nothing else happened. You thought about things. You made your decision and you have to face consequences. I just stared at her as she spoke, her words sinking inside my brain very slowly. Don't you see it's all about you? You know that you are my mate and you say it when you see Kyle with me, but you don't know that I'm your mate when you are with Shay. What if I had done something like that with Shay when you are with her? She is Luna, not a real one. But Kyle is alpha. A very strong alpha. He lost against you. You will lose too. But that's not the main topic here. I won't lose. You are really kidding me, Daniel. She yelled at my face. I could see anger on her face. Ever since she returned. It was the first time she had shown this anger. Mostly, she's cold and calculating. But right now, she looks plain angry and frustrated. What? Can't accept the fact that you can never win against me. She glared at me. Or as I thought. She was glaring at the wall past me, and then her expressions turned a blank one. Her eyes widened suddenly, and I watched all those expressions cross her face. Her lips parted and she sucked in a sharp breath. I turned around, but there was no one behind me. What happened? I asked, frowning at her. Mind-link Dave. She ordered me in a stern voice. There was something about her tone that I couldn't defy her order. She could never be able to do that. Dave. Called him through mind-link, but he didn't respond. I tried again a few times, but I got no response. Sera watched me closely with wide eyes. She seemed to be at high alert. Manny. Her voice shook as she said that. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Are you there? I asked Dave's mate. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Is everything all right? I don't feel good. Something I wrong. Is Dave with you? Tell me he is with you. Tell her he is fine. Sera told me, and I did as she said, though Manny didn't sound very assured. I cut off the mind link. Did she hear my conversation with Manny? How's that possible? I didn't add her. In Alpha, and there is no way she can interfere with my mind link. But she's my mate. That can happen. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I was cut off as I went flying back, and my back hit wall with a painful force. I groaned as my hand went to my back. That was a powerful blow. A really powerful blow. But what the hell happened? Before I could ask Sera what happened, I realized that Sera was the reason, as she stood over me with a murderous look on her face. Chapter 25. Danger. Sera's P. Ovi, he was in danger. I felt it. There was something wrong with Dave. Manny was also scared. My heart thumped loudly inside my chest as my vision clouded. This can't be happening. This can't really be happening. I was here to protect Dave from those rogues. How could I have been so careless? I was not supposed to be tired. I was not supposed to sleep. And I was not supposed to show my emotions to Daniel. This is not good. I pursed my lips together, still glaring at Daniel, who sat against wall looking at me with confusion. What the hell, Sera? He asked with anger in his voice. I just glared at him. When he rose to his feet, I lunged at him again, tacking him down. My fist connected with his jaw. It was like déjà vu. Just a few minutes ago Daniel was beating Kyle, and now it's my turn to beat Daniel. But Daniel regretted his actions later on. I don't want to be like Daniel. I lifted myself off him. I felt angry and frustrated. My fist collided with hard concrete, throwing pieces of hardened cement around. I punched again and again. Sera, I hear Daniel say. What happened? Control yourself. I only heard his voice in background as my mind was completely unsettled with the probability that Dave was in danger and I didn't even know where he was. He was not supposed to be in this trouble. Dave could not be in this problem's era. Manny is pregnant. This can't happen. I failed in protecting my brother. Oh God, how could I have been too careless about this when I was so adamant of his safety? Why didn't I stay with him when I knew danger was lurking around? Dave is beta, he is really strong. But they had it planned. They have it all planned. They have their spy in this pack, for crying out aloud. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What if something happens to him? What will I say to Manny? What will I say to their child? What will I say to Dave? I will never be able to live it down. I can't be without my brother. Sera, stop it. I heard a voice yell, but it didn't affect me. What affected me were those arms that wrapped around me. What affected me were those lips that enveloped mine. What affected me was that feeling which relaxed me. I kissed Daniel back. Not with anger. Not with frustration, but with softness, because I needed this right now. He needed this right now. With this kiss there were two hopes. He will be a good mate and he will be a good alpha. I wanted that second hope to come true. With a softness it came. It ended. Daniel pulled away, his hands still around my waist while mine was still by my sides. Relax. Everything will be fine. Dave is fine. I know it. He told me with softness. I nodded slowly, my eyes downcast. Daniel is alpha and Dave is beta. He knows. His words relax me more. He will be fine, he assured with gentleness. I finally lifted my eyes to meet his but didn't miss his lips. Shock washed through me, but I didn't let it show on my features. He was the one to kiss me first and I returned his kiss. That was a mistake, but I'm not going to tell him I think this way. It will most definitely crush him because he seems to be very much affected by this kiss, as if it means world to him. For the first time I can see in his eyes the concern I wanted to see again. He concerned about me, but that was always missing when it came to others. Now he is concerned about my brother. He is acting like an alpha. If he was not with Shay, I pushed him away. He let go of me and stumbled a few steps. Where's Shay? I growled at him, my anger coming back. What? He asked, confused. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I repeated my question slowly. But why? I know she is related to this. I yelled at him, my walls breaking slowly as emotions spilled out, anger. No, Sera. She's not related to it. He said softly. I could see regret in his eyes. At that moment he really regretted choosing Shay over me, and he'd take me back in a heartbeat if I asked him to do that right now. Yes, she is. I know she is. Did Dave tell you there is traitor in pack? I asked Daniel, narrowing my eyes at him. Yeah, he answered unsurely. He knew where I was going, so I let him continue. Do you think it's Shay? Yeah, I think it's Shay, I said, gritting my teeth together. Why? Because her mate was a rogue. And you ran away with a rogue? He shouted at me. You of all the people should know that I rather ran away. Completely alone. Because I was disgusted with my mate. I spat at him venomous lie. He flinched at my words but regained his composure. The same mate you kissed seconds ago. He accused. I huffed. You took advantage of my situation. You kissed me first. And if it bothers you that much then I won't kiss you again then. He seemed panicked as his eyes widened. I smirked at him. You, now shut it, Daniel. It is not about me now. It's about Dave. I growled at him and left. I could have slammed the door shut if it was there. Sera, wait. He came running to him. What's wrong with you? I asked, facing him. Where are you going? To kill Shay. I answered casually, but that was not true. I will kill her someday though. You are jealous because she has me and you don't. I was almost shocked. I stared at him for a couple of seconds and blinked. I wanted to chop him into little pieces and then feed them to rogues. My mind was already enmessened with his special words. I was going to explode like an atom bomb. This is so darn frustrating. He's so darn frustrating. I clenched my teeth together and squeezed my eyes shut to control myself. This is not the time. I think you should bother about Kyle now. Before he spills your beans. I told him and started to walk away, dismissing his attempts to get on my nerves. It's surprise how much control I have on my anger because right now I want to do so many bad things to him that I can hardly think of anything else. He is just making it worse. He won't do that. We both know. He stated, falling on step beside me. I stopped and turned to face him. Then go to your mate. Just leave me the hell alone right now because I don't want to see your annoying face at this moment because God knows what I will do. You will kiss me, he answered, smirking at me. Is this man so thick? Can't he see that in being held to my cool by very thin thread that can be snapped with one single pull he is tugging at it like gorilla? Listen, Daniel. I have enough of this right now. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. I told him in my deadly calm voice. Stop acting like you are the only one who care for Dave. Manny does too, and many others in this pack. But not certainly you because you care only for yourself and your already stained image. My image is, oh just shut it. I took a step towards him until our faces were inches apart. You are nothing but a worthless alpha. Everyone wants to overthrow you. Those rogues. They want to end you and take over this pack because you are weak. Very weak. They still think that you can't transform into your wolf. That's why they are taking big steps now. If you had appeared in your wolf form even once, after your transformation, they could have not gone to more extent. You have out your pack in trouble, Daniel. You are trying to taunt me because you are jealous of Kyle. You selfish bastard. I shouted the last part and walked away from him, leaving him stunned. That was really enough. I don't feel bad saying those things to him because he deserved that. Even worse, I know I hurt him. He will cry in his room, but I care the least. For now I have to find Dave. My heart constricted. I hope he is fine. I know he is fine. But for now I have to go to Kyle because I have this feeling he knows about Dave. And then I have to see Manny. This situation is getting very complicated. Oh God, keep my brother safe. Chapter 26. Fear Sera's P. Ove Ekar groaned with another spasm of pain. His stomach had a huge gash, from silver. Various bones from ribs were broken. His femur had multiple fractures. When I heard that Kyle was injured, I didn't know it'd be that bad. Pack Doctor immediately started with whatever work he does while I sit outside. My mind a complete mess. This is the first time since I came here that IVE started losing my control. I tapped my right foot impatiently in order to keep my anger in check, because any moment I'm going to explode. Carl was going to survive. He had sustained many injuries, but they were nothing for a werewolf, except for silver gash on his stomach. It will take a month to heal even a nasty scar. A powerful alpha like him was in a vulnerable condition like that. It didn't make me feel relaxed about Dave's situation. I could smell Dave on Kyle. They were together and something happened that landed Kyle in hospital. I just wonder what it might have done to Dave. But I hope he's all right. He's going to be all right. Their wolves are almost trained now. Dave didn't have much to worry about. except for the traitor. I still wonder who this traitor is. I told Daniel that it was Shay, but truth to be told, I don't honestly know, but I have a strong feeling that she is related to it somehow. I took a deep breath and watched the door closed. Dave must be okay. He's going to be okay. I just have to find out where he is before those rouges do any damage to him. I swear I will tear them into shreds if they cause any harm to my brother. Enthusiasm, and my friend, Manny. She must be worried now. I really don't know what to tell her. She is pregnant and she needs someone the most now. I stood up and straightened my shirt. This is time to see Manny. I hope everything is all right. I drove to her fast, my vision getting blurry, but I refused to let tears show their existence. They will die in my eyes. I can't help thinking about my brother. Rogues are ruthless. They torture their prisoners. They can't do that to my brother. I will kill them if they even lay a finger on him. He is my brother and no one touches my brother. But he is taken away. What am I going to do? I blinked back my tears. Nothing is going to happen to Dave. He will be completely fine. I killed the engine once pulling into driveway and rushed inside. She didn't even lock the door. I entered the living room to find Manny sobbing silently on the couch. Manny. Her broken condition broke me from inside. It made me more aware of my brother's state. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She chucked and I put my arms around her. She buried her face in my shoulder, and I let her tears soak my shirt. She started saying incoherent sentences about Dave being in danger and the harm that could be caused to him. It would be completely wrong to say that I was not scared. For the first time in past few months, I could feel fear, and I personally hate this feeling. But I can't control frantic beating of my heart and the potential danger on my brother. He's going to be okay. He is going to be okay. That's what I told myself, and that's what I told Manny, but she kept on crying. I knew what I was going to do, but at that moment, I didn't think of anything better to do in her blood vessels. She went limp in my arms and I carried her to car, bringing her to pack doctor who connected an IV. I just watched them. It was all going in blur as doctor told me that Kyle would get better, which I already knew. He was unconscious. I had to wait for him to wake up and then talk. Doctor didn't appreciate what I did to Manny. I didn't like because I knew he'd find out eventually. I just manipulated him to take care of her. The next thing I knew was Wilson asking me to go to Pack House where I could take rest, but that's not what I did. The moment I entered the living room, I found Daniel and Shay each other's faces. I watched them with cold eyes, with Wilson at side who seemed extremely uncomfortable. I dismissed him with a wave of my hand and stood there trying to cool my nerves. But for how long? Daniel's POV, my hands pulled Shay closer to me, kissing her furiously. I wanted to get it out of my mind. I wanted to get Sera out of my mind. Her words hurt me so much, but I refused to show that. She was not affected by the kiss as much as I was. She became cold just after that best kiss of my life. All I could think of was her lips, and all she would think of was the ways to make me feel worthless. Why is she so cold towards me? What have I ever done to her? Shay pulled away from me when someone cleared their throat. My hands tight and around her waist. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Shay said, and my eyes flew open to find Sera staring straight at me with cold eyes. Sera greeted casually, glancing at Shay before looking back at me. I want to talk to Alpha. Alone. Fine. I heard Shay say before she lifted herself of me and pecked my lips. Whole time my eyes were on Sera as hers were on me. When she turned her gaze away when Shay pecked my lips, I knew how much I messed up. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. No explanations required, Daniel. I just wanted to ask you if you help me to find my brother. I guess I should leave you to your own business. Sera, it's not your brother who's kidnapped by rogues who God knows they are doing with him. Sera, you know what, Daniel? I wish it was you who was kidnapped by wolves. I would have been so much easier for me. Her words stabbed me in my heart. I became silent, staring at her silently. She kept her eyes on me. I wanted to look away from her, but I couldn't do that. Her eyes held me captive. Her gaze was so intense. It was like she was reading my soul. Oops. Did those words hurt you? You're not sorry because that was exactly my intention. She mocked, crossing her arms. I sat there silently watching her. I'm going to see Kyle now. At least he tried to save my brother instead of you, who don't care if his beta is missing. But what I'm expecting? You didn't give a crap if your mate was dying. You're selfish, Daniel. The most selfish person I ever met. I curse my fate for choosing you as my mate. She turned around to walk out and my mind started working. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I called out and she stopped on her tracks, not turning around to look at me. But she stopped, which meant she was going to hear me out. I went to see Kyle. I told her. She clenched her jaw. I didn't know what she was thinking. She didn't look very pleased, though. I continued. He was awake and told me that it was a rogue attack. As you already know, they were 10. More than ever. I've asked Wilson to inquire about those wolves who have escaped rogues before so that we can find out where possibly Dave could be. Her head finally turned to me and she stared at me. The coldness was gone and she was staring in my eyes, trying to see if I was sincere. I didn't break our eye contact and let her see that it was truth. I care for Dave. He has been my best friend since childhood. He is my beta. He had done so much for me. I can't let any harm to come to him. I will find him no matter what. Okay. She nodded, still staring at me, and turned around. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I called again, and this time she looked at me, cocking her head to side. Her face was blank. I couldn't find out what she was thinking, but it was better than coldness. I can't stop thinking about that kiss, I said, going to the main topic. She raised an eyebrow at me and then wavered her eye contact before returning back to me with coldness. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That was the best kiss of my life. You are my mate and I just can't thinking about you. Please, Sera. Forgive me. What do you exactly want? Her eyes becoming hard. I took a step towards her. Our faces were inches apart. She didn't take a step back and stood on her ground. Her eyes went to my lips and then back to my eyes. I copied her actions and raised my hand, resting gently on her cheek. Her soft skin was like silk under my hand. It was so soft that I cowed and stopped caressing her. I leaned in to kiss her, to feel her soft lips against mine. But she took a step back. My eyes fluttered open. Why did she do that? Purple lipstick doesn't suit you, she said with a smirk and left. I stood at my place wondering over her words. My hand reached to my lips. When I looked, my finger had purple tinge of she's lipstick. I groaned internally. What is wrong with me? Chapter 27 Miles Series P. Ovi, do you think it will do us any favor? I asked Daniel as we made our way to old-looking single-story house standing in front of us. Deserves a shot. I knew what was going inside his brain. I didn't want to talk to him at that moment. Daniel rang the bell a couple of times before the door was opened to reveal a middle-aged lady with strikingly blue eyes. Those were the bluest I'd ever seen. She had a round face, slightly wrinkled with age. Her black hairs were turning grey and she didn't bother to dye them. She was wearing a loose kimono. Hey Doris. I'm Daniel, alpha of this pack. Daniel introduced himself. I rolled my eyes. I know Alpha. Please come in. She smiled politely at her alpha. Her eyes fell on me and she gave me a questioning look. Daniel extended his hand for me to enter and I did. He followed behind me. We walked to her living room and seated on comfortable leather couch. Doris brought us a glass of water as I observed the room. It was small but comfortable. There was nothing spacious. A carpet was covering floor. Small coffee table was in front of couch. There was a love seat at left side and a beanbag to right. Walls were decorated with paintings. My mate likes to paint. Doris stole me while my eyes were fixed on a beautiful painting on opposite wall. It was breathtaking. There was a beautiful woman with blood-red hairs and green eyes with a smile on her face. She was hidden behind a veil. A wolf was etched to her right bottom and forest above her hairs. He must be really amazing. I complimented, smiling at her. My eyes roamed back to the painting once again. Oh, he is the best one. She smiled. Where's Miles? Daniel asked her. Miles is her mate. The person we are looking for. He is in his study. He hardly comes out of that place, she said with a sad tone. A mate who pays no attention to you. I feel bad for her because I know how bad it hurts to know the person you love with every cell doesn't love you that much. Miles may love her, but not giving her his time is strangling her hopes, her heart. Can we meet him? Daniel asked expectantly. Doris shifted uncomfortably at her place. So he didn't like to meet anyone? I don't know. He doesn't like to meet anyone, she said in a small voice. She didn't want to anger her alpha when he had appeared on her doorstep for the first time. Daniel was going to become impatient. I knew that. But I will ask him. I nodded my head to her along with Daniel. She disappeared in the hallway. Now I think this is not going to work. Daniel groaned, leaning back and rubbed his hand on his face. It will work, Daniel. I pulled his hands off his face. Roles are reversed. He looked at me intently as his hands were still in my hands. Our faces were not very close, but close enough to feel his faint breath on my face. His eyes shifted to my lips and I knew where this was going. When I was about to detach my hands from his, he wrapped his huge hands around my wrist and pulled me towards him. The unexpected move drew a gasp from my lips and he wasted no time to lean forward and press his lips against mine. I knew this was going to happen, but still my eyes remained open. My body relaxed as his soft lips grazed mine, but didn't help to give any sense of elation or satisfaction. It was a simple kiss and I was not going to dwell on it, knowing he will go to Shay at the end of day, and I mean night, not the eventually. Eventually I won't let him stay with her. With lack of my response, Daniel coaxed me to kiss him back. His one hand entered the maze of my hairs while others wrapped around my waist. I pulled away slightly because I knew he won't release me easily. Your mate won't be happy when she finds out you were cheating on her, I said in a breathless, mocking tone. His forehead was pressed against me as he tried to get over the phase of bliss of kiss. You're my mate, he panted, his hand massaging my scalp. I'm not going to lie. It felt good. It relieved me of the headache I was suffering since Dave's disappearance. You didn't say that a year ago. I pulled away from him and he let me go. He knew he was wrong and he was regretting it. Like really regretting it. After our kiss, his mind becomes most vulnerable. He now realizes that fake mate bond is nothing as compared to true mate bond. I ran my fingers through my hairs to fix them. If Doris had walked on us, it would have been extremely awkward. We sat there in silence for a few more seconds. Daniel's brain a home of hectic thoughts. Footsteps approached us and I saw Doris coming in our direction. What did he say? Daniel seemed to recover from whatever daze he was in and looked at her curiously. He wants to see you, she told me. I was surprised. I hope he is not a pervert. But why does he want to meet me? Did he say something like I want to meet the girl, or did he take my name? What? Daniel burst from my side and I knew he was going to protest. To shut his mouth. My mind came to easier spot. I don't have to explain everything to him now. He's not even mated to me. He even rejected me. He has no say in my life. It's not like he is asking to see Shay. Calm down, Alpha. My tone was not as playful as my mind was after saying this. Daniel stared at me. Similar regret washed over his face and he lowered his head. I can take care of myself, I mumbled and asked Doris to lead me 2 miles. Daniel was sulking as I walked away from him. His eyes burning holes at back of my head, but I cared the least for him. Right now I'm thinking about Dave. I will find out where he is, even if it takes seducing the pervert. I'm capable of protecting myself, so there's going to be no problem for me. If that jerk crosses his limits, I have to get information by hook or crook. But for now I expect primary treatment to work. As I walked into the room, I cringed. If the person sitting on the desk was Miles, then he was definitely a pedophile. His hairs were completely grey and there was a noticeable stip at his back. His face was more wrinkled and blue eyes were dull. "Are you, Miles?" "Yes, I am," he said with a smile. "Seriously, this man was my grandfather's age. Not that I've ever seen my grandfather, but seriously. How old was he?" 111. "You wanted to see me?" I said, unsurely frowning at him. "Yes, Sera." He nodded his head and guided me to take the chair opposite to him. The case was filled with books and a number of books. It smelled of books. Old books. I won't be surprised if I see bookworms or moth's hairs because this place is very untidy. Several books sprawled on floor. Those on table are in a mess. I cocked my head to side, urging him to continue. "You're here with your mate," he said in a weak voice. How did he know? But I kept my face neutral, not voicing my thoughts. But seriously, how did he know? That was just a hunch. A voice in my head told me. Doris must have told him that there are two people, and he might have thought that Daniel was my mate because it was kind of expected. Mates usually accompany each other everywhere. "No, I'm not with my mate," I told him monotonously. He smiled at me. A genuine smile. "You are Sera. Daniel is your mate. Even though your mating bond is not the strongest one." I narrowed my eyes at him, not uttering a single word. How the heck does he know that? He broke our eye contact and shuffled in his drawers before producing a slim notebook and blue ballpoint pen. I watched curiously as he opened the last page of notebook and started cribbing something. I frowned at his strange behavior. Does he remember I'm still here? I'm sitting in front of him. He can raise his head and look at me to remind himself in case he has short-term memory. Miles was a strange being. There was something about him that irked me. I just couldn't. "Let me explain it to you." His voice broke me out of my thoughts. I blinked once and leaned forward to where he was pointing at his notebook. He hadn't written anything but drew lines. One line was a single line mark from tip of pen, while the other one was thickened by repeatedly stroking the line. "What is this?" he questioned, raising an eyebrow. If he was going to teach me how to play with these lines, then I was definitely not interested. But I knew it was not just that. Something inside me told that he was going to tell me something that might have great importance. "This line," he pointed the thin line, "is your mating bond with Daniel," he said as if telling a child about new thing. "And this," he pointed at the other thick line, "is the usual werewolf bond, a strong one." My gaze fixed on those two marks. I don't want to believe his words, but when I look at my past, his words sound true. Dave can't even stay a day away from Manny. I've witnessed other werewolves who are so happy with their mates while my bond with Daniel is so weak. Why is our bond so weak? I wondered loudly. It was not only a conclusion from those lines but observation from my life. We share a bond. I agree with that. But it is really weak. I was also thinking about that. It has to do something with your blood. Your antecedents. I don't want to talk about it now. I'm not here for this purpose. I interrupted him. I don't want him to raise finger on my blood. I know the reason. I know why a bond is not strong. I have a feeling that he doesn't know it yet. It's better that way. He shouldn't know. No one for the matter should know. He narrowed his eyes at me. "What are you here for?" I asked, cocking his head to side. "You were kidnapped by rogues," I asked, folding my arms. "Yes, but I escaped how?" I questioned him. "I have this insight. I can see through werewolves. I can know about their strength and weakness. It helps me in battle. But you can see I'm not fit anymore." "How can you do that?" "It's not every day you find wolves like that. I've been told that some werewolves have special powers. Maybe he also has this special power. I don't really know. I was able to get away unharmed from rogues. He told me, my brother is kidnapped by rogues and I want to save him. Can you tell me where did they keep you?" As soon as those words left my mouth, the door burst open to reveal a fuming alpha. Talk about possessive mate. Chapter 28, Saving the Mate Daniel's POV. That was waste of time. Sera commented, getting into passenger seat with displeasure, pressure written all over her face. There was nothing we could make out of Miles' unnecessary chattering. According to him, he didn't see them. I could feel Sera tense. She was worried about Dave's well-being. We cut by another, I started, but she cut me off. No, we are not wasting our time like this. Now we have to send our wolves to search around the territory, she instructed. We can't investigate. We have to take action now because we don't know how long Dave is going to be safe. How do you know Dave is safe? I just know. Drive to Pack House and call your best wolves tomorrow. And I'm going out tonight, she said as I started driving. I was impressed by her tone, she said with finality. Even I could not defy her orders. She was a true Luna. She was never interested in pack business. She didn't care how many people died or got lost. But neither did me. I felt angry at myself for acting so irresponsible. Sera was right. If I was not such a jerk, my pack would have been safe. Watch out, Sera shouted at me, pulling me out of my train of thoughts. But it was too late. Something hit the car as I pulled the brake. The force shook it with immense force. Car skidded on the road, head did a turn before coming to a stop. Smell of burning rubber at my olfactory indicators. That was thrilling. Silence surrounded us. No one even breathed for a couple of seconds. It was then Sera let out a sigh of relief. I blinked, feeling like an idiot. How could I have been so lost in my thoughts? I could have get us both killed. But the problem was not with us. Something hit the car, and by the force. I guess it was a werewolf. If that was the case, there was no big problem because werewolf can heal faster. I turned to Sera, who was facing front with wide eyes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Are you okay? I asked her with concern. She turned to look at me, blinking slowly. Her mouth parted to say something, but before she could utter a word, the glass of window at her side broke, and a hand was pulling her outside the car through window. I shut my eyes close and shielded my face from the shreds of glass flying. Sera's scream of fear alerted me, and I immediately rushed out of the car to her side. I could faintly see shadows retreated and shifted into my wolf form to save my mate. My angry wolf ran at the speed it never did before. Adrenaline rushed in my veins as thought of losing Sera haunted me. I can't lose Sera. I cannot lose Sera. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My wolf cried as the figures came into my view. They were holding unconscious Sera. I pounced at the first figure. His grip loosened on Sera and he dropped her. Without thinking much, I sunk my teeth in his flesh, tearing at it from throat. There was no heartbeat, but I couldn't stop. I jumped on the other person who had shifted into a wolf by then. It landed on my back and bit on my shoulder, but I couldn't feel pain. All I could see was red. I was too consumed in anger that pain had not place in my brain. I ran towards a tree and slammed to it with my back. The wolf howled in pain and detached itself from me. Before it could pounce at me again, I turned around and bit on its stomach, ending its life. But that was not enough to relieve me of my anger. I dismembered his body parts. Daniel, a weak voice called, and I found Sera leaning against a tree at the other side of the road. Her eyes were big as she watched me. Those beautiful green orbs pleaded me to stop. My wolf calmed a little and I walked to her on my forelimbs. Her hand came to stroke my head. I put my snout under her legs and threw her on my back with my head. She didn't protest and clung to me as I rushed towards the nearest lake to wash myself. When we approached the destination, I placed her gently on the ground and went to lake to wash myself from the blood of those mutts. Cool lake water helped to completely deter my anger. My eyes often roamed to Sera, who was staring at me with a strange look on her face. I shifted back to my human form as I approached her, oblivious to my naked state. It was until I noticed Sera scowling at me did I realize I wasn't wearing clothes. She seemed uncomfortable, so I hid my number from her eyes with my hands. She smiled at me. A true smile. It was nothing like that of those cold smirks she used to give me. For the first time she smiled at me, looking more angelic than ever. How could I have chosen Shay over her? I was a real moron. Sera's anger towards me is completely understood. I walked to her and sat at her side, leaning my back against the trunk of tree. Thanks, Sera whispered, closing her eyes. Her face lit in moonlight and slight breeze flew her dark hairs. My eyes fixed on her face. I didn't say anything and continued to watch her. She was relieved for the first time in past 24 hours. My hand reached hers as I laced my fingers with hers, feeling contented. She didn't say anything. Neither did she protest. We sat there side by side, listening to the rustling of leaves as wind blew past them. Chirpiness of insects in background was soothing as we lay in our own heaven. The silence was like a lullaby, relaxing my senses, and I closed my eyes, feeling Sera's seat against my body. It was no long after that I fell into darkness. Chapter 29, Between to Mate Sera's P. Oh, Daniel breathed slowly, resting his head on my shoulder while I was on high alert. We encountered rogues not so long ago. There are great possibilities that they are lurking in dark shadows of the secluded forest. If it wasn't for Daniel, I could have found out Dave by now. Not that I blame him. It was the first time when he saved someone. Saved me. I didn't need that. I was not the damsel in distress, but I'm glad he finally realizes what his duties are. I can feel it. I can see inside his mind. He wants to improve now that he knows how it feels to have someone you love in trouble. Initially I had thought to let those rogues take me to their den. Possibly Dave. When Daniel had pounced on them, I wanted to shout at him but restrained the urge. If Daniel was going to change, I could let it postpone a little bit, but I can't wait longer. We are attacked once. We can be attacked twice, but I don't want Daniel to be in trouble. I can't leave him here. Pulling out my phone, I dialed Wills and asking him to get us and also bring clothes for Daniel. I could hear uncertainty in his voice, but he agreed. I hoped Manny was fine. I don't feel good by landing her in that condition. I know that sedative was not bad for her health. She didn't even get a chance to voice her thoughts of disappearance of Dave. She's his mate and she would know better. Only if she was not carrying another life inside her. I can't risk her and Dave's child. My phone rang and I immediately thought it was Wilson. Hey, he said a little excitedly. It is nearly impossible for him to reach here that fast because I called him like 2 minutes ago. But I wanted to get out of here. Should I take your excitement as success of your mission? The cold voice said from other side of line, and my mood faltered. Vladimir. Was all I could mutter, cursing myself mentally. Boy, I'm in trouble. I had completely forgotten why I was here. The main reason, as they thought. I don't think so. Have you gained any success so far? Or should we escort you back and then burn you alive for your failure? Come on, man. No, I think I found someone who can give me more information about it. I bit my lower lip as my brain worked on different scenarios. And can I ask you who are that and what have you been doing there for a month now? He asked, sounding impatient. Oh, I think the previous alpha of this pet knows. I've met a man who can help me with this case. And I was trying to extract information from present alpha but got nothing. I shrugged, keeping my face neutral even though he was not in front of me. I expect you to return with complete information since you are taking so much time. Should I send someone to help you? My mouth opened to deny, but I stopped. I can't let him detect panic in my voice. I don't think it's necessary. The previous alpha will be back in a month. I'm trying other sources at this moment. I hope to find out something really fast. You don't have to send anyone for help. I replied in a calm voice. Very well then. I will call you in a month then. He hung up and I let out a sigh of relief. Daniel's key. Ovi. I woke up to someone shaking my arm and groaned, feeling pain erupting from my shoulder. Oh my God. Someone shouted in high-pitched voice, switching on my headache. What the? I slowly blinked my eyes to adjust them according to brightness of room. I hand-gripped my arm, jamming my blood supply. Sharp nails dug into my skin. My eyes opened to face white ceiling. Daniel, a voice said, and I looked down to find Shay smiling at me. I tried to pull my lips to form a smile but couldn't do that. I stared at her blankly, trying to remember what happened. Dave Miles, Cart Rogue, Sera. I shot up, sitting erect with a slight pain on my shoulder. It didn't feel like that of previous pain. Oh, Daniel, Shay said, and the next instant, her lips were on mine. The moment her lips met mine, my memory went back to when Sera's soft, cold lips were on mine. I pushed Shay away as Sera's face come into my view. She was leaning against wall, her one foot flat against a vertical surface and arms folded on chest. She didn't say anything and had a calm look on her face. She was observing us with cold eyes. "Are you okay?" I asked, feeling concerned for her. I hadn't thought about her injuries if she sustained any. "Yeah, I'm fine." She smirked at me, and then her gaze went to Shay, who was glaring at Sera. I didn't know what to do. I felt terrible acting like that to Shay. She was my mate. I couldn't do that to her. I was the one who marked her. I was the one to ask her to be my girlfriend at first place. I was the one to take her virginity. I can't brush her aside just like that. Sera's eyes snapped to mine with a cold look in them. "And you will never take my virginity." I heard her voice in my head, but she didn't say anything. Her lips were sealed in a tight line. I was surprised. It felt as if she had spoken for real. Maybe it was my conscience speaking. There is no doubt, I don't deserve anything from Sera. But I can't hit. Whenever she is near me, I just forget about everything. I forget about Shay so easily. "Daniel, tomorrow is your birthday. Summon pact members for the oath. To renew the pact bond," Shay said. Her eyes were on Sera instead, who returned the cold glare from one of her own cold gaze. "It's a ritual for every alpha. On the birthday, alpha has to renew the pact bond by taking an oath. It makes the pact stronger. I have forgotten that tomorrow is my birthday, and a day when I committed the biggest mistake of my life." My eyes hesitantly traveled to Sera as I felt her eyes burning hole at top of my head. I had expected her to give me her similar cold gaze, but instead of that, she had a smile on her face, a sad smile that made my heart constrict. She sighed and turned around to leave. I wanted to know what she was thinking. That look. What did that mean? Chapter 30, True Colors of Alpha's Mate Sera's POV. I thought Alpha and Luna will be present for Daniel's birthday. I wondered loudly, leaning against counter. "Well, Alpha and Luna will be there considering it's Alpha's birthday," Wilson said with a frown on his face. "I mean Mr. Osborne and his mate." I clarified. "Old habits." I still considered Daniel's mom and dad as Alpha and Luna because present fake Luna of this pack is far from Luna and Alpha is far from Alpha. Sometimes I considered Daniel can change his ways, that his eyes will open one day and he will see this world with a different view, a realistic view. But I think this is not going to happen anytime soon or ever for the matter. Mr. Osborne was an amazing alpha of his pack. I know because I was part of it. It was one of the best packs and the reputation still remains. If it wasn't for Daniel, those rogues would have never dared to attack this pack. And my brother. I closed my eyes thinking about Dave. He's okay. I know that. I believe on my sixth sense because it is mostly accurate for all the assumptions. Why the frown? Wilson drew me out my thoughts and I shook my head to clear it. "Dave," I mumbled, rubbing my face. "I wish I could find him just now. He will be okay. Don't worry about him," he assured him and gave him a small smile with that unsettling feeling in my gut. There was something I was not paying attention to. There was something latent yet in display and I was unable to look at it clearly. The black picture was becoming slowly blurry, forming shapes, but I couldn't see the meaning behind them. "Perhaps if I concentrate, Sera," someone called. The voice didn't belong to Wilson, but the man I've grown to hate more. "Hey," I gave him a forced smile, not letting him know my true emotions. "Tomorrow is his birthday. I don't want to spoil things for him. He can make my birthday my death day, but I'm not that cruel. Maybe I'm a bit cruel to him. That's why he pushes me away. But he will come back to me eventually. No matter what." "What are you doing?" he asked, frowning at Wilson, who decided it was time to leave me alone with a foolish devil. "Nothing. Just talking to Wilson." I pointed at Wilson's retreating form with a sharp edge to my tone. Wilson might have caught it because he turned around to give me an apologetic look and then dashed out as if his butt was on fire. "Why are you doing here?" I asked Daniel, whose eyes were still fixed to doorway from where Wilson exited. Slowly, he turned to face me. His eyes were beautiful blue. Too bad. He doesn't have a beautiful personality. Our eyes were locked and this could be considered as a romantic moment. Now we will hug and kiss. "No, I wanted to talk to you," he said, staring into my eyes intensely as if to unravel me with the force of his enchanting eyes. Not that I was affected by him. "Then talk." I shrugged, pressing my forehead against cold marble. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Are you okay? He asked me. Yeah. I'm fine. I shrugged, not looking at him. I wanted to apologize for kissing me. Shay is your mate and blah 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 blah. I rolled my eyes. Go back to your mate. If you think you are cheating at her, then don't feel guilty, because you are not the only one unfaithful in this relationship, or whatever you call it. At least we only kissed and I'm even your mate. After saying those words, I dash. Daniel will take time to comprehend what I said, and by the time he will, I will be not in his reach. Well, I planted the seed. Let's see what is going to happen tomorrow. Boy, I was waiting for this since the day I came. I made my way towards escaping from all eyes. At this stage, Daniel cannot get back even if he tries to. Tomorrow is going to be a really eventful day for Shay. Bet on her tears. 1 liter. A voice said, and I smirked slowly. This is going to be fun. I feel bad for pack members and also a bit bad for Daniel. But for Shay, non-Ada. Do you think it will work? He asked, sounding concerned. Of course it will. Daniel is a little deep in it. I realized it from yesterday. I am where I want to be. Only if Daniel was not such a jerk. He's really clueless of so many things. What do you exactly think about Daniel? That he doesn't deserve to be an alpha? It amazes me. He is son of an alpha, but he doesn't have alpha qualities in him. He's pretty dominating, Sera. He told me. I don't think so. That's because you are his mate. He told me flatly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And if he tries to make moves on you again, I'm going to kill him. You mean if he tries to kiss me again? I gave him a lopsided smirk. He narrowed his eyes at me. Okay. I'm not going to say anything about him. Now cool down. I lowered my hands in front of me. Let's pray tomorrow will be okay. It will be. And you should hide in these woods. Especially near a river. Don't come in anyone's view. Until tomorrow evening. Okay. I will, my vampire friend. He saluted. My eyes widened and I jabbed him with my elbow. He let out a painful grunt. What the hell that was for? He asked in a strained voice. Don't say that loudly. In fact, don't say that word. I don't want anyone to know that I'm a vampire now. This is going to be a secret. No one will know about it. Sera is a werewolf whose wolf died, and she's a human now. The concept of vampire is not going to exist in this pack. Keep that thing in mind. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't be so violent, sis. Dave folded his arms in front of his chest. You really want to see that? I raised an eyebrow. No, she shook his head. I've seen enough for lifetime. I need to go now. Manny is still unconscious. I told him. You gave her a strong sedative. He accused me with worry flashing in his eyes. I rolled my eyes. I gave her a dose of vitamins. Actually, I hypnotized her. It's completely harmful. I care about my future nephew or niece. I know. His voice was sad. I want to see her. He mumbled. I put a confronting hand over his back and rubbed in circles. She is okay and she will be okay. Don't worry about her. He nodded slowly. Now leave. I have to return home. I told him. Are you going to pack house? He questioned with a frown. No, I'm going to our house. I clarified and he smiled at me. With a final hug. We parted. I just want to see what awaits for me. And the whole pack. Flashback N. I'm not going to write whole flashback in italics because it strains my eyes to read so much in italics. You'll know where it ends. I leaned against the tree trunk gazing at the night sky, thinking about various ways to save Dave. Daniel was sleeping and I wanted him to sleep for long. All I had to do was to press a vein at base of his neck and he would be out in less than a second. But there is a problem. He can get into trouble. But it was a risk I was willing to take. I had to save Dave and that's all that matters now. One of my motives to return to this pack was saving Dave. Daniel was never in the big agenda. I carried out my work and left Daniel leaning against the tree, sleeping. I just hope he will be fine. After making him unconscious, it will make me feel bad if anything happens to me. But my greatest concern is Dave. I followed the scent of rogues who tried to capture me still lingering in air. Daniel killed them both, brutally might I add. I never knew he had it in him. I'm glad he can save someone at time of trouble. When I get a whiff of scent, probably the path where they came from, I ran in my lightning speed, reaching my destination in 5 minutes. It was a long distance. I was hardly feeling exhausted or anything. After all, I was a vampire, one who doesn't need blood. The credit goes to Daniel, because I'm still his mate and didn't reject the rejection. I still have werewolf scent and werewolf appetite. There are some things that didn't change. I'm glad because I just can't bring myself to drink blood. In front of me was a cottage in the middle of woods. Who would have thought? This region is densely surrounded by trees. It's a place where you expect wild animals. A forbidden place. But who knew one can find a cottage where probably werewolf resided? I can smell their disgusting scent. This is going to one hell of a task, but I have to find Dave now. There were 5 guards in front while there was a wooden fencing adding to glory of beautiful cottage. Their security was stuck tight. I sniffed Dave's blood and closed my eyes to concentrate properly. The scent was from the middle of the small house. I was thinking they might have put Dave in dungeons. Yes, they had. I rounded the corner and disappeared with a speed that will let me get inside being unnoticed by guards. And was I successful? Even though I made my way to a tall plant near the door, I was unable to get inside. 2 burly men standing there on high alert. There was no way I could get inside without causing any commotion. If they would have been humans, I could have saved Dave within a minute. But there are werewolves. I had to find another alternative quickly, before anyone notices me. My eyes roamed everywhere around searching for windows. Back door was the only way left to enter the hell hole, which looked beautiful from outside. Inside will be my enemies. I have to get to Dave fast though. And how can I forget unconscious Alpha lying naked at the middle of woods? I snickered internally at the thought. Not time to make fun of Daniel. I chided myself, and with a fast motion removed around the cottage with same high speed, only stopping when I came face to face with wooden door. Mistake, the door was guarded by a Hulk. His eyes settled on me. He had wide eyes and looked startled to find an intruder. I was going to pounce at him, but his hungry gaze on me stopped me on tracks. Like typical werewolf. His eyes scanned my figure, and I had a plan inside my head. Weakness of werewolves, they are horny, and I was going to take advantage of it. Oh, handsome man, I was lost in this forest, can you help me? I said quietly in a fake sad tone. I hope they reply as quietly because I don't want to attract more attention. Of course, lady, he said in a husky voice, and I knew how it exactly happened as a hand was pressed against my back and I was pulled to a turn. Long-haired, disgustingly smelling werewolf. I had heightened my olfactory indicators so that I would find Dave. But at that moment, I shut that before I could pass out. Well then, why don't you just show me? I ran my finger from his forehead to cheek and when pressed hardly on neck. His eyes rolled at back of his head and he slumped. I balanced him and dragged him to a secluded corner, dumping his body behind bushes. If it was for my vampire strength, I could have been in trouble carrying the truck. I sniffed tear, and after making sure that no one was inside, I opened it and went on my knees after closing the door behind me. It was kitchen. I hid behind a counter and closed my eyes, hearing every single movement, sniffing every smell. Footsteps were near the room at side and below it. That means there is basement, where Dave is kept. I can smell him more strongly than before. I had to get past the person in the room at side. There were some sounds coming from upstairs and many awful ones, more than that of Daniel and Shay. Maybe it was a night for success. I would be lucky if I managed to take Dave out of here silently. I'm sure I'm going to rescue Dave today. When I peeked inside, an old man was pacing around the room. His face was flushed and he constantly ran his hands to his head, which was lacking hairs at all. He seemed to be in late 50s. He was not going to see me. I closed my eyes. Dave's scent was coming from the left end when I opened my eyes. There was a door, and it was closed. Now the main problem, how to get inside without getting noticed by the old man. There are many things a vampire can do. And I can definitely do many things. What about doing this? I made my way behind that man in less than a second. He turned around immediately at eye-green eyes with his greys. We stared at each other in concentration for a few seconds. His mind was easy to tame. Open the door to basement. I instructed him inside my head and he nodded his head, slowly making his way to dilapidated door like him. I rolled my eyes. With the pace he was walking, I was going to get hold like him. Finally he reached door and opened it. Stay here and don't let anyone in. I told him and entered. It was dark but my vampire vision allowed me to see clearly. I could smell nothing special. There was a room which didn't smell like Dave at all, meaning he was never brought there. I turned to other side. The room had faint smell of Dave. He wasn't inside but he had been there. I opened it to reveal an empty room. There was nothing inside except for two men guarding a door and Dave's familiar scent hit me. Their eyes fell on me and before they could react, I rushed to them at a lightning speed and threw one across the room while pinned other against wall. I had already seen key hanging from his pocket when I entered. I pulled it out and unlocked door as the weak werewolf fought for escape. I slammed him hard against wall. The impact made door opened. Dave's scent was more prominent. I narrowed my eyes at the weakling who was ready to shift into his wolf and snapped his neck. His body fell limp on ground in a thud. Before I knew what was happening, Dave came out of the room like a lightning bolt and attacked the other wolf who was trying to jump on me. I moved out of way as I watched Dave fighting with Wolf before he snapped the neck of poor guard. We are half-siblings after all. We had same techniques. Let's get out of here, I told Dave. He nodded his head and we rushed out. The old man met my eyes. You will be out of my influence after 1 minute and forget everything that happened here. Alpha Daniel was the one to save Beta. I told him mentally and he nodded his head. Maybe rogues will be more alert now and not attack thinking Alpha Daniel will bait their butts. All it took was 1 minute to get out of the cottage and into forest. But it was not the end. There was a rogue standing only a few feet away from us as we were at the mouth of woods. Before he could lunge at us, I threw myself on him and smashed his head against a tree. But that was not the point where he gave up. He tried to attack me again but I slammed my fist against his nose knowing that would be enough to end him. And it did. We ran again and made our way. Daniel was still there in his naked glory. It was them, Dave, and I finally acknowledged each other. I hugged him tightly, making sure not to break bones. He was a werewolf but still, he was my brother. I'm so happy to see you, I told him, resting my head on his shoulder. So I am, but sis. He pulled away slightly. What was that? He asked with a frown and I knew what was he thinking and I also knew it was EVI table so I didn't deny what was going to happen next. I'm a vampire, Dave, I told him. Flashback ends. Dave didn't react badly. He was a bit sad. I filled him all the details and that I was here to save Pack from rogues. There were some things I didn't tell him. I filled him with details of what happened and he just nodded, soaking in all the information. You will not show your face now, I told him sternly. He asked for a reason which I told him. He was happy to comply. Now tomorrow is for Shay and Daniel.